One thing I couldn't help noticing in Hartford was when you threw the flag into the audience, and it was like a peace flag, and this absurd situation developed where you had people fighting over a peace flag, and well, the Edge suggests you probably did that deliberately just to see what would happen with it. But it seemed to me, well, it would fuel somebody's skepticism. Say I was someone who was skeptical of your message and of you know of any of spiritual principles of any talk about kind of love between people, and I was to say, well, you know, here we have the situation. It's so clear that, you know, here these people are saying, yeah, we love you too, and yet, you know, they're throwing a peace flag and they immediately start, it's dog eat dog, and the whole thing is revealed for the sham that it is. And well, the Edge was just very practical about it, just, well, you know, one can't expect, you know, I don't expect these people to be you know, they're obsessed with this group, and you throw them Bono throws them a flag. Obviously they're going to squabble over it, you know, and one doesn't want to get too grave about it, but it just seemed to me like...
No, I actually know exactly, I mean, he's actually right.
I think he's right. You know,
I know, but I knew when I threw that in what would happen. I knew it, and I felt that I had to throw it in, because I just sensed from that corner of the audience, I sensed something. I just threw it in, watched it, and then made the point. And you see, I mean, normally I wouldn't own up to this type of thing because it sounds too manipulated, or whatever. But I just think you can make points like that. People, it's after the concert they go home, and then it just makes it. I just find, I mean, see, most of the things, the whole stage, we don't have a stage with lights and you know, back slide projectors and all that. All the things that we do, we've bumped into.
Yeah.
Just bumped into. When I was introducing the song Bad once, and in the middle of the song, somebody broke through the audience, and they knew what I was talking about. I could see it in their face, in their eyes, and I held on to them. And I could just, as I held on to them, I just felt that, so, you know, just this incredible surge. And it was like as if you were holding on to everybody.
Yeah.
And them holding on to you. So that became, that's it. It's better than a light. It actually, it's a moment in time. So now if I feel right about it, I'll pull somebody and I do that, repeat that. The same thing with a flag. About a few weeks ago, I, without knowing it, threw a flag just threw it away, because I'm sick of these flags. They're doing a lot of damage to me. I mean, the whole idea of the white flag was like that. It was drained of all color. You know, and like tonight I tried to take off the colored bits. You know, these are just things that. Anyway, and it happened 3 weeks ago. I said, what? I was so angry. You know, so angry against it. And I stopped the concert and all that. So occasionally, I realized that actually made a point. You know, sometimes you just gotta make a point. You know, say, hold on. You know, and I just threw it in, and I sensed it over there, and I think it was right to throw it in last night, because I think as it turned out. I mean, it's an old argument. Does it last more than a night?
I think probably not. But you know, maybe some change gradually does come about. It's just, you know, you see the kind of banners saying, you know, we welcome you to in the name of love, and you sort of think, well, you know, is there any, I mean, are they learning to love each other?
No, it's going in the right direction.
Yeah. You know,
another thing about rock and roll and why it's good when it's good is because it's a very positive thing to applaud somebody else.
Yeah.
Very positive, and I think people should applaud, you know, somebody walking across the street.
Yes.
You know, applaud somebody's walk.
Yeah.
You know, I think people should applaud you as a writer, people should applaud, this guy, who's poured out the tea, the woman, the girl. I mean, I just think it's a very positive thing to applaud. I like to think that if I, the next day I'm walking past somebody and they might be drawing on the pavement and I would applaud them. That's a very positive thing.
Yes, I agree with that. Is there no danger of being mistaken for the Messiah that essentially you sing about?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you sing about, Jesus Christ, but you're, in a sense, you're testifying to a spiritual power. And I assume that the element of danger there is of embodying that spirit. And you've got 20,000 people who love you, and that it must be difficult not letting that kind of go to your head and not feeling like somehow almost as if you're the vessel for this power.
God, yeah. You see, it's very clear for me. I think the music is much better. The music is much better than the musician. And when I meet performers, can tell the ones that think.
It's like Yeats' thing of the dancer and the dance, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Brilliant. But I'm very aware. I'm aware of when it's. I used to say it before. I remember talking about this even a year ago and saying, I would have people that say, hey, look, listen to this, aren't we brilliant? Aren't we? As opposed to, isn't it? It's just like, I do see it as a separate thing, and indeed I do believe that ultimately the people see. You could say, right, this guy, right, he's on stage, look at this, up, and they're all going up. That guy, he has them in the palm of his hand. He has them in the palm of his hand. I mean, if he's turned around, he said, down, get down, everyone down on the floor, would they do it? No, actually. I think our audience, I think they know us better than we know ourselves in a lot of ways. And I think if I went, if I actually went out and said, hey, Simple Simon says, put your hands on your head, they just go, yeah. Really and truly, I think they give it to you for an hour and a half. They give it to you. They give it to you. But those people, it's them that they're applauding as well. And so you see, one of the things people forget about these large concerts is they've heard the records, they know the songs from the radio, and their lives, it's become a soundtrack for their lives, or a part of their lives. When they hear those songs, their own self is caught up in that song. They are in some ways applauding themselves, and applauding that connection.
Yeah.
So, and
it's very true.
I really do think, it's certainly true of my own. When I hear certain songs, when I think of John Lennon's Imagine LP, I can zoom. I know exactly when that record was my favorite record. I know it's always. And if I hear it coming on, I'll go, wow, and I'll go, yes. I'm not just applauding the songs, no,
That's right. How do you think teenage American fans think of you as a group?
I really don't know that. I think in some ways there might be a sense of. A lot of people that say to me, well, you're a real rock and roll band. I haven't had a real rock and roll band for years, maybe 10. They've heard of this thing called rock and roll, and they've seen it affect their elder brothers, and seen it with the other sisters, or groups like The Who, or groups like, and they think, well, it's meant so much, but it doesn't mean that much anymore. It means a lot to these 4 people. And then it means a lot to me.
Well, we're not.
No.
you've said don't try to fight darkness with light, just make the light shine brighter. Which
It was said to me, actually.
that was said to you.
It was said to me, and I quoted it.
Yeah, which implies not directly attacking evil things like bombs and apartheid, but
Yeah, it does.
the shows I've seen you are making direct attacks. Well, attack's
Yeah.
a strong word, but you're making explicit charges, and you're. And
Yeah.
I think it's good. I mean, because I think. But what I was going to ask is, do you feel that the important thing is to have a balance between kind of vagueness, in other words, a metaphor like light and a metaphor like love, because we can't really define explicitly what love is, and actually kind of just saying very kind of straight face, South Africa, apartheid is wrong and this is wrong. Just saying that off the cuff almost. Do you feel you're kind of treading?
I'm actually debating in my own self that very thing. I'm debating because I was in my bed in New York, whatever floor it was, in this cell of a room. I was watching the television, and it was a news broadcast. It was coming live from Columbia University, where there was a sit-in.
Yeah.
Demonstration against apartheid and basically investment in South Africa by the university, a double standard. And I was thinking, in this what is the most conservative time in America, where patriotism is near jingoism, I kind of applauded in myself their actions, and then I thought to myself, I'm in bed, I'm in New York, get out of bed, So I got out of bed, got dressed, went downstairs, got into a cab, asked them to take me to Columbia University, went to Columbia University, walked in, because I wanted to see it firsthand, and I wanted to just to say that, because I just felt that this was a real exception to the rule, because students are not longer fighting back anymore. Personal peace and prosperity is the order of the day. Give me a fridge, a television set, and a car, and I'll agree. Agree to anything. I'll vote in whoever will give me them. But so I just felt that. I went down there, and there was a hunger strike in there. They had a hunger strike for 3 weeks. And I went down there, and people came up, and they had our tape. They had Pride in the Name of Love on their tape, playing over the thing. It was just unbelievable. And I went in, I met some people, and it was raining, and we're all under plastic. And they asked me, would I actually speak to them? I said, no, I couldn't speak to them, I wouldn't know what I'm talking about. I'm just like anyone else, just read about these things on news and on the radio, and I just didn't feel qualified to speak to them. I just said, well, look, this, for what it's worth, if anyone's interested, I just come down because I just wish to applaud you. And I left. Well, it seemed to, and because, I got a lot of students, I don't know how they found out where I was staying, and arriving at the gigs, and people from Columbia University, and they just said, that something. And I just felt I'm coming to a point where I'm going to have to, if it has to, to have a go at things, just have a go at them, Like I said, we had some professor, some college professor came down to one of the concerts, and he came backstage, and he said, what you said about the American flag, he said, you don't understand. He and his wife, she also was a lecturer in the university, said, it's just unheard of. Because I had said to them that, sometimes I say this, that, whether I wrote this song in the hope that one day there would be no more flags, be they green, white and orange, Union Jack, hammer and sickle, whatever flag was in my mind. And I said stars and stripes, and the audience applauded. And I said, I couldn't believe that they should applaud this, because the American flag at this point in time is not to be messed with. I already got into trouble in Germany that time when I threw the American flag off the thing. This was the time when they were putting the bombs in. And in general, I think I would avoid. You've got to be as shrewd as a serpent and as innocent as a dove, you know. If you, I never want the stage to be a soapbox. I never want it to be. Never want us to be a political group. I never want us to be a spiritual group. Never want us to be, I want us to be everything. So I just feel there's a time, if I feel like it, make it just, because it just might just. I don't know. What do you think about it? I mean, I'm open to advice on the subject.
Well, no, I like this show for the element of uncertainty as to what you might do next, and that it hasn't all been kind of pre-planned. We will not do certain things. I mean, I like that sense that there's no kind of codes there. Right? Sort of, for this tour, explicit political acts are out, or for this tour,
Yeah, like
they're definitely in. And I like that because there's a real feeling of when you're on stage, you are moving from one moment to the next, and you're doing what strikes you as appropriate.
It's brilliant, moving from the one moment to the next.
Yes.
What a way to live your life.
Well, if we could all live like that, we'd be living in heaven, close to heaven.
Oh yeah, I'm really into the heaven on earth concept. I mean, I'm not into pie in the sky when you die. I want it now. I want my slice now. You talk about not having, whatever you said there was so well put. I went through a point where I thought, the reason we had 3 white flags in the war tour, the reason we had them, the original white flags were brought to me and by the audience. And I just thought, because it's a very powerful non-symbol. And so I used them. And of course then we really were walking into the valley of death there. But, I used to feel the stage just wasn't big enough. Not big enough for the music, not big enough for the group. I used to feel so hemmed in, so I used to go out and push over the PA or climb up on the PA. And then, the group said, God, you've got to stop this. And they were right, I have to stop it because it becomes expected of you to do, people were coming along maybe to see, will Bono fall off tonight? Or, because I, at times, went completely over the
I remember I was living
top.
In California at the time that you performed your epic jump off at the sports arena. I remember reading the report in the newspaper, and I think it was probably Robert Hilburn, the LA Times.
I like him.
For him, it was like I don't know how he interpreted it, but it sounded as if it was very important to him.
He said, I've never seen anything like this in rock and roll. I never want to again.
Yes.
And he, I'm such a fan of the group, and he was right. That was there was the anger, that was going through a period of trying to actually maybe hoping I would fall off, I think, for a period, hoping that people wouldn't catch me and I would hit the ground. There was that definite element of bad self-destruction in that. But one of the original elements from it was just, the stage just, just feel it, I want to go there, why shouldn't I? It's great for me now because I'm not going to accept anything. If I want to go out, I still will. And the group, they still, they don't know, but they know that I'm not doing it. I don't do it now, as I haven't done it on the tour. But I still don't want to make a rule for myself. Like, I will not climb up. I will not ever have a white flag on stage. I will not ever dance with a person on stage. I will not ever, because that's doctrine, dogman rules. So there's no rules.
Bono has said, this is partly a really good question for Bono, but he said, don't try to fight darkness with light, but make the light shine brighter, which implies to me not directly attacking evil things like bombs and apartheid, and yet you are actually making direct attacks now during the show.
That's right. Yeah, I've noticed Bono doing that, which is quite a new thing.
Is that recent? I mean,
Yeah, like
recent
the
in
last
the tour. Or?
the last week, he made some comment about apartheid
Yes.
in South Africa. Yeah, it's new.
So is it, I mean, you feel there's it's necessary for there to be some balance between just sort of vague espousing of love and so forth, and concrete accusations like don't support South Africa or whatever. And do you, I mean, it seems to me you're treading quite a nice, quite a, a balanced line between vagary, like between being vague and being too agitprop.
Yeah, I fear being too explicit more than I do being too vague, because I probably disagree with Bono here slightly, but I don't like political music. I don't like music that is polarized or that is connected with politics, not the actual issues themselves, but the actual, mechanics and what have you. So I would be more in favour of the vague approach generally. There is a balance, obviously. You've got to put it in context to an extent.
Yeah.
But I prefer personalising it if possible. Because, I mean, the Martin Luther King reference I think works fine. It says an awful lot without having to get into actual issues. And I mean, politics is, it's such a frustrating thing, I suppose I'm apolitical in many ways because I just don't really see that politics ultimately does much, really. Maybe I'll change my mind, but certainly in this country it seems like there's a certain inevitability to things. And,
yes, there is. Political machinery doesn't really allow for very much, or doesn't really allow for individuals to make very much individual impact.
Yeah, there's an old Irish joke which goes that no matter who you vote for, the government still will get in, which is very Irish. And,
How important has Paul McGuinness been in breaking you here?
Very important, really, very important, because a lot of English groups are very silly. They come over here and imagine that they can
fall over backwards.
Yeah, they can be English and be very dry and very standoffish and very condescending, and that everyone will recognise their great talent and will go and work very hard for them. But I think we realised, first of all, through our own record company in Island Records, which is the British company, we'd listened to all this sort of record companies ripping us off rhetoric, which seemed to be the in thing around the time we were signing. And we went along, and all we could see in Island Records Britain was just a series of individuals, some of them together, bright, intelligent, some of them a little dull, some of them you knew you could rely on, some of them you couldn't. And we just built up relationships and we treated them like human beings, and that's the way we worked out with Island Records. Then we came to the States and we discovered exactly the same thing. There were some people who were just very good at their jobs and very, and they deserved credit, they deserved praise, and they got a lot of help from us, and we just built up relationships like that. And Paul was really the one who had the time, I suppose the insight to really go for that. And we built up very good relationships within Warner Brothers, for instance, our record company, at that first point in time when we started touring America. And this meant that in fact we could tour here, otherwise we wouldn't have been able to. Also our agency, Premier Talent, over here, very important agency and very powerful, and our association with them and our friendship with them has been incredibly important as well.
The thing you were saying about breaking an act by touring, another applies to Prince. You know, after all, he in the '99 tour, I mean, they just slogged on and on and on
Yeah.
for 6 months, and
Yeah.
it happened gradually. It happened.
Yeah, he was having fairly healthy airplay as well with some of his songs.
Yes, true.
In this country, record sales are really, you get sales if you get radio play, and we get specific sort of play, but we don't get the sort of across the board, airspace that you need to really become a big artist.
Right.
And we don't really write music that fits into that thing, and I don't really care really. I think what we're doing at the moment is fine. It's unique to us, and it doesn't bother me that we don't get that sort of play.
Yes. It's a very boring question as well, but being together so much of the time must often be a strain. And touring as a group, I would have thought, is an artificial situation, which most people have to go through. That kind of thing of just being a kind of almost sort of, luxury nomads, high living nomads, just wandering from one to the other. Often, being in each other's company a lot of the time. How do you deal with tensions? You talk about them and sort of get them out, get them aired, and
Sometimes, not always. Sometimes there are gripes.
yeah.
Sometimes, but generally, I think we still have a lot of respect for one another, which ultimately means that if someone's pissed off with someone else, it eventually gets blown over. There are no people in the band that we're ashamed of, ultimately. We all make fools of ourselves from time to time, but there's no real, assholes in the group, I don't think. So we get by.
Yeah.
I think we all deal with it in different ways, really. I think Bono's probably the most forthright and would kind of come out with it. Adam just stays up late at night and gets drunk, So, and I probably am quite secretive as well. But it never gets serious. It's funny. It's really funny. But we miss one another's company when we're not together. Like, for a long time we shared rooms in hotels, and it's only recently that we're in separate rooms.
Yeah.
And it was a difficult transition. It really was. People were. It's another door. People were really feeling a bit isolated and
Yeah.
lonely.
The mystery thickens. I think it's just cleaning eyes and all like brooms knocking against walls and stuff. But what is? I mean, how secretive is Larry? Larry, I really don't know anything about.
Yeah.
Sort of mystery.
He just doesn't like interviews. It's a great thing. I mean, I don't think he thinks he's good at them, and he doesn't want to do them. And I think he probably will at some stage start doing them again, but he just doesn't want to.
Yeah.
He's a very simple sort of character. He loves playing drums. He loves rock and roll, and he loves motorbikes. He's sort of Matt Dillon
Yeah.
style
Yeah.
character.
That seems to be his style.
Yeah, and you can't argue with him into doing interviews because there's no point if he doesn't like doing them or think he's good at it. So it's not like a really complex thing.
Reason, right? Yeah.
Very simple.
How is married life and Bono with a kid and all that? I mean, do you?
Oh, it's me that's got the kid.
It's you that has the
Yeah.
kid. Oh, I don't misread that or it was
Yeah, it's Rolling Stone
miswritten.
probably, was it?
And I didn't read the Rolling Stone piece. There's something else could swear to.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, does your wife and child come on tour?
Yeah, they came on the tour at the start. Well, so 3 weeks into the tour for a while, and that worked out quite well. well, I picked a time where there was least travelling, because travelling is what makes it really
Yeah.
bad. It was great, actually. I really enjoyed the
Yeah.
time. Really did. I wanted to go home with her when she left. I really
Yeah.
didn't want to stay here.
Yeah.
But it's like stabling,
Yeah.
stabilizing, and it's healthy in one respect because it means that you cannot become totally pickled in yourself and what you're doing, your work.
Yeah.
There are times where you really just have to knock off, and stop. And I think we're like most bands, we're fairly obsessed with what we do, and that ability to stop, or that necessity to stop, I think is a pretty healthy thing.
Yes. Absolutely. How do you feel when people reel off the names of the? I think it was Stuart Adamson who said there are only 4 rock bands. Or something. It's us, U2, the Bunnymen, and Simple Minds. I mean, do you feel
Well,
flattered to be put in that company, or do you feel what are the differences?
Well, I like all the groups. Not everything they've ever done, but I think that's part of the charm of a group, is that it's capable of mistakes, but it has some sort of character which keeps you interested. I suppose I like the fact that people think, well, I don't know, it's sort of restricting. It's something we tried to avoid for a long time. Like, there was the whole psychedelic thing at first, which we found a bit tedious. It was, at that stage, it was the Bunnymen and Teardrop Explodes, and I think Heat at that stage, U2. And now it's just, I don't know what they're calling it now, new positive rock or something.
Yes.
That's sort of, it's terribly infuriating. But I mean, I like the group, so I suppose it's kind of nice that people think about it in that way. I think there are a lot of other groups. I think of...
There's a lot of inferior ones. An awful lot of U2 copyists emerged in the last 2 years.
Yeah. I suppose it's just at the moment there's a lot of groups haven't really come through yet. Like REM, I mean, they're great. I really like them.
Good, yeah.
What was that band that opened for us? Dream Syndicate. They opened for us in America.
Did they?
Yeah.
Well, on the last tour?
No, a couple of tours ago. They were way out at that stage. they were unbelievable. We heard some demos or something. We liked it, so we agreed to have them on. And I remember Bono and myself going out front and watching the show. And we just couldn't believe it. This sort of Dylan-esque frontman, putting across these good lyrics, And then this maniac on lead guitar.
Carl Prokoda,
he was my favourite,
Sterling Morrison comes again, wasn't he? Yeah.
But you can imagine our shock the first time we saw it. It was like, God, what's this? It seemed like, somewhere down the freeway that 2 different bands had got mixed up, At some truck stop they'd gotten the wrong bands. This was the result. But there's a lot of groups coming through that I'm interested in. I like groups, I really do. I think something about a group, four or five or whatever people that are all involved. Solo artists, I think, are very boring after a while. I don't know why, but I suppose it's hearing one person's ideas all the time just gets very boring. When you've got 4 people contributing and haggling, there's a certain extra character to it.
This is a sort of very deep question. It's not meant to frame you as religious or anything like that. But do you think one can only be happy with God, however you understand the word, in one's life?
God, that's a heavy question, isn't it? I don't feel happier now than I did before I came to some conclusion spiritually. I think happiness is a sort of minute by minute thing.
Yeah.
So,
Do you think one has to have some sense of a, what a greater power in order to really achieve happiness? Or
I think in some ways there's a different level of peace or contentment, which is, I think, part of a spiritual experience like that. But I don't. That waxes and wanes. So I don't really think there's a huge difference. No, I don't. I think ideally probably there would be, but no is the answer. I get depressed. I feel crap. I feel like getting the plane home, and sometimes I feel great. Sometimes I'm on stage. I just feel this is just the best thing that I can imagine of ever being able to do, and I just feel like great. I feel so contented and so happy. But you always your moods really do change a lot.
How practically do you think that say, I don't know, love can change the world? Do you
Oh, this is getting very
well, I suppose I'm just following through the implications of U2's message, if you like, and
I don't really know. That's probably the answer. I honestly haven't a clue. We're just following our noses, really. We're just sort of kind of got some vague, very vague idea of a direction to go, based upon our beliefs and convictions. This is sort of what we should do, and it does change every day. but still, that's the nature of the thing. I don't really have any long-term ideas about the thing,
I was just thinking, there was one of the banners, one of the numerous flags and banners at the show on Saturday said, "Well, we welcome you to in the name of love," or something. And I thought, well, maybe, does this really mean that they love and worship you too? Does it mean that they love each other? Has it gone to the stage where? I thought, maybe if
I don't think they could. I don't think we can control people's feelings. I don't think at all.
You don't think a change will come about through your performances?
Not a long-term change, no. But I have a feeling that what happens at a show is there is a breakdown of maybe some of the more negative, insular feelings and inhibitions that people have. So for the duration of a show, I think probably there is a good deal more.
But not much sustained beyond that?
No, I don't think so. I couldn't imagine someone's life being changed through a rock and roll show. I think maybe overall there might be a minute shift. For instance, the thought occurred to me that a lot of our audience might be forming groups, which was a nice thought.
Yeah. Something
we've, I suppose, touched on as an idea, and like we play Bob Dylan's song, Knocking on Heaven's Door. In fact, the alarm showed us how to play it, so they're responsible in some way. We always promise ourselves we'll learn like 6 covers before a tour. We never do. We're still lousy at doing other people's songs. But we bring a guitar player on stage some nights, not every night, to play the song. Bob gives him a guitar lesson on stage. It sort of shows him the chords, and then we leave him on stage playing the chords.
Really?
Yeah. It's a really mean thing to do, but depending on how good he is. If he's really poor, we don't leave him for very long. If he's good, we tend to leave him for a little longer. And
how did you find him? You just put him out of the audience?
yeah.
And that's great.
That's the sort of, that's what we're really saying is,
Yeah.
this is what it's about. It's these chords and these are the songs, and not that everyone can do it, but there's no mystery to it.
Yes.
But that's a nice thought, that people would be forming bands. I suppose I think we might be more effect in the music business than actually
Directly
to our audience.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll be less inclined to accept crappy gigs from heavy metal bands, when they've seen someone like Bono's really sort of performing. They'll be less easily pleased by Ted Nugent or someone. Actually, don't say Ted Nugent, just say some heavy metal band.
I didn't even know Ted Nugent was still playing, to be quite honest.
No, maybe he isn't. But Ted is likely
to the backwoods to shoot,
Yeah, Ted is likely
bears.
to come after me with a sort of sawn-off shotgun. That's his style.
Mess with me, Edge. Blow your fucking head off, man.
We actually saw him once in Los Angeles. It was one of the most funny experiences of my life. Seeing Ted swinging on the stage in a loincloth on a big sort of vine thing. It was brilliant. He's my hero.
Why is it so uncool to be spiritual, do you think? I mean, I don't think it is, but why is it deemed so unspiritual by hip rock and roll folk?
I don't think it is. I think maybe what is uncool, and I agree, is self-righteousness, or professing to know the answers.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think when anyone says, this is the way we should.
Right, follow me.
Yeah. Then people say, "Fuck off! Why should I?"
It makes people suspicious of any kind of spirituality or religion.
Yeah.
Per se.
And I agree. That's the same thing that I went through. I hated all that shit.
Yeah.
I think anyone with any sense does. And you come to America and it's the same stuff on the TV.
I was watching some guy last night. I could not believe
It's
this guy.
amazing.
He was talking for an hour. I mean, I wasn't sitting there glued to the box for an hour, but I just had it on just to see how long he was going to talk about. He was talking about material possessions and how it was all right. I mean, basically, he was reassuring any doubts in the audience that okay, so if they were giving him money and that led to his buying nice expensive Mercedes, but don't worry, because that helped him spread God's message. The fact that he had 15 of these fuckers. I mean, the whole sermon, the whole thing was just about how, it was a crucial part of his ministry to be given lots of money.
Ooh.
And I really couldn't believe it, And he was so unconvincing.
Yeah.
And I was such to me, just such an obviously pernicious and wicked man. And just his whole bearing and the way he expressed himself, and his expression, his physical expression, was so
frightening.
unhappy.
Isn't it frightening?
It was very frightening.
Terrifies the life out of me to see that sort of thing on TV.
Yes. Another quote from Bono. We don't have too long, but I'll be trying to be quick. We have the melodies of a great pop band, but we don't have structures like that. Which I think is, a very good point. In the sense, you're right. Beautiful pop melodies, but without making, turning them into foreigner records or whatever. Do you think that you could ever make a top 10 breakthrough like Dancing in the Dark? Because Springsteen, that was his first real hit as a single, and he's been in the same position really as you for a while, hasn't he?
Yes.
Massive concert success, but not selling that many records.
Who knows? I can imagine it happening, but I don't.
You wouldn't try and contrive it, or?
No, I don't think we would. We're not really interested in that's when I use the word pop, I think of pop as being describing a throwaway, trivial, sort of shallow thing that, you know, is all, you know, shiny and glistening, and you consume it and then
Yeah.
throw away the packet. That sort of music doesn't really interest me. I can appreciate it, you know. I love Madonna, but you know, I like Madonna in her first records, Lucky Star and that stuff. But for us, I think if we did have a top 10 hit of that, or a real big single, it would be coincidence almost that what we wanted to say and what people wanted to hear coincided,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Because that's really what pop is about. It's giving people what they want, which is generally, I mean, you see it in the film industry, you see it everywhere. It's normally a heap of shit, you know. And that's just the facts of life. That's what it's about. And I can understand why people do. You know, musicians get into pop as a discipline, but it's not really what I'm interested in, or the band really.
Yeah.